So today we're going to do something that I really like doing every couple months or what have you, and that's a refresher on the basics of meditation. Really going through in detail the steps of how we meditate. And if you've been coming here for a while, which many of you have, which is amazing, you might be like, well, I already know how to meditate. But sometimes we can kind of forget some of the most basic things when we really start to move further down the curriculum, right? So this is a really good refresher if you are a veteran meditator, and if you are new, this is a great. I mean, there's no better class to take because we're going to go over everything, how we meditate in detail. Cool. So if you are new, please ask questions. That's kind of the benefit of, at least in my opinion, the benefit of this live format is you can say to me, Keith, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know what you're talking about. And then I'll be like, okay, I will try to say this a different way. I'll use a different analogy or something like that. So feel free to interrupt me at any time by chatting in the chat. And if you're not comfortable doing that, you can always email me after class. I know I have a couple outstanding emails from you guys. Sorry, I've been a little busy this week, but I will get to them. But I'll put my email in the chat later on, and you can email me any questions that might come up. Cool. Okay. So let's start by just kind of going over meditation in general. Even though that's kind of the topic today, I like to start with just a brief overview so we can get right into a very quick meditation, especially for people that are new, right? Before we dive into like the minutia of things. Okay. So meditation is a technique of learning where the goal is to familiarize your mind with something, right? Familiarization. You can actually kind of think of meditation as being analogous to familiarization. Right? So why does that matter, right? Well, what does familiarization mean? What does it mean for us in our life, right? So if we think about some things we're really familiar with, right? Driving a car, jumping up and down, tying our shoe. I don't know. I love that example, but it's kind of fun. These are all things we're super familiar with, right? And because we're really familiar with them, what happens? They start to come naturally to us. We can do them without much effort, right? If I was going to say, hey, tie your shoe, you'd be like, okay. And you could probably do it with your eyes closed, which is pretty impressive considering that at some point in your life, long time ago, tying your shoe is extremely complicated. It might have been the most complicated task of all time, right? But through practice, through repetition, through making it kind of habitual, right? Familiarization, tying your shoe becomes easier for you. Maybe it's still difficult. The same is true with all of the things that we learn in our life. And the same is true with our emotions, feelings, right? Which is what we really kind of focus on with meditation. So if we think about something like anger, we're super familiar with anger, right? We don't have to try to get angry. It just kind of comes naturally, right? Somebody says something and boom, we're angry. You don't have to try. It's not because we're an angry person. It's merely because we've had a lot of practice at doing it. And so our mind's like, oh, I know what to do. I'll take it from here. I'm getting angry. But we can start to dictate what we want our mind to become familiar with, right? So right now, maybe we're more familiar with anger than, say, patience. Well, we have to try pretty hard to be patient, especially in times that are difficult, right? So meditation is about choice. It's about retaking control of what you are focusing on moment to moment. And by doing that, you start to become familiar with these positive things, right, that you want to focus on. You can become just, how quickly anger comes? It is possible for that to happen for patients if you train enough in meditation, right? So that's just kind of a brief overview of what meditation is, right? Because sometimes we think it's relaxation, and that's an aspect of it. We're going to talk a lot about that today. But how does meditation relax you is an interesting thing that we don't often get taught. And the way what's happening is that your mind is becoming more familiar with your natural relaxed state, right? So remember, meditation is training in familiarization. So it's not pulling relaxation out of the air. It's tapping into this kind of relaxed self that you have there all the time. And it's teaching you to become so familiar with that you can go there more easily. Just like driving comes naturally, just like tying your shoe comes very naturally to you, right? After years of practice, you can do the same with your peacefulness, relaxed state, right? Sounds great. So, how are we going to do this? How are we going to start to use meditation to benefit us? That's what today's class is all about, right? So let's get into that a little bit. I know my format's a little different if you've been coming more regularly, but I think it's good to go through two of the steps, and then we're going to do a little meditation on them, and then we're going to talk about the other ones, right? So regardless of what you want to use meditation for, and you can use it for pretty much anything, right? Because all it is familiarization. I know I'm saying that a lot. Hey, Patrick. So what do you want to familiarize your mind with? Being relaxed, being kind to yourself, being kind to others, being grateful for the things that you have, patience. I don't know. There's a laundry list of awesome things that we can do with meditation. But regardless of our purpose for being here, learning meditation, the steps of meditating are the same, which is great, because if we learn them, then we can use them for all these different things. We can train in our mind to become familiar with all these positive things instead of just focusing on one. So the first step of a meditation is planning. I don't like planning personally. Some people love planning. I'm not a planner. I've never been a planner. So when I hear the word planning, I'm like, oh, visceral reaction to it. So I fought this for a long time when I started meditating. I didn't do a plan. And what I mean by a plan is it's not some elaborate plan. It's you deciding what you're going to meditate on in this moment today, right? Well, what you're sitting down to meditate, what are you going to focus on, right? And I used to kind of just be like, I'll just see what happens. Which is kind of cool in its own right. But there were times where my mind would just kind of wander on and off and into different topics, right? And those topics are really beneficial, but I didn't really have a focal point. And that's really important. We'll get into that more, having a focal point when you're meditating, right? So having a plan on a panic attack if I see a spider. I have a lot of spiders in my house. You wouldn't like it here. So a good example is, okay, let's say you're studying for a test. Let's say you bring yourself back to school, or back in high school or middle school or what have you. Now, it's really good to study for math, right? But not if you have a history test, right? They're both beneficial, but you might want, if you have a history test, you might want to study for history, right? So this is all part of planning our meditation. Doesn't need to be complex, can be very simple. It can be something, we're going to do a breathing meditation in a little bit. It can be something like, I'm going to focus on my breath. Boom, done. That's your plan. This is also kind of analogous to intention, which is a word that we hear a lot. And really, intention is like a purposeful mental action. And the benefit of intention setting or making a plan about what you're going to meditate on is that it's easier to get back on track when you inevitably drift off and start to think about something else, right? It's sort of like a hiking trail, right? If you kind of wander, oh, look at that beautiful flower, and you wander off the trail, you're like, oh, I'm off the trail. And then you look back, you're like, oh, there it is. You get right back on. So if we have a plan, we know what we're supposed to be focusing on whenever we drift. Cool? That's it. All right. So very simple. I'm going to focus on my breath. That's what we're going to do in a little bit. Okay. So we have our plan. Now what? The next step is relaxation. And I know this is why many of you are here, especially if this is your first time. Relaxation is a huge part of meditation. It's a word that is used with meditation all the time. I explained a little bit about how meditation can relax you, but it's really important to relax our mind. Why? What do you think? Well, when your mind's all agitated, like let's say your mind's angry, like everything starts to annoy you, right? Or if you're anxious, you start to worry about things that you normally wouldn't worry about, right? So when our mind is not relaxed, not peaceful, when it's agitated, it's not working with a level of clarity. That's an important word for meditation. It's not working with a level of clarity that we want it to, right? So the first kind of active step that we're going to do is relax our mind to get rid of some of the bombardment of distractions and thoughts and anxieties and stress that are kind of plaguing our mind all day long, right? Think about if you're getting ready to run a race. Hey, Steph. Good evening to you. Think about if you're about to run a race, right? Well, you don't just show up to the race, right? Or you get a good night's sleep, you eat a good meal the night before, you do some stretching, right? You prepare so that you have the best possible chance of having a good race. So relaxing in meditation is that. It's setting yourself up to have a really good experience doing a meditation. Okay? So the way that we relax with meditation is something called single-pointed concentration. Fancy? All it means, focusing on one thing. I don't know, not that easy. Right? It's easier said than done. Why? Because we are really familiar with multitasking. We do it all day long. All day long. Even when we think we're not doing multitasking, we're multitasking. We're always bouncing around from thing to thing, right? And so we've had a lot of practice with it, which is great. Like multitasking can help us get, our worldly tasks done efficiently, but it's not so good for having a relaxed mind. Right? So with meditation, we're making a choice, a plan. We're going to focus on one thing. We're going to focus on one thing so exclusively that all the other things that we normally are thinking about, they're going to start to fade into the background a little bit. Very similar as being in the zone. A little cliche phrase, but we've all kind of experienced that. Maybe you're working on a project at work, and what happens? You're really plugged in. You lose track of time. You don't hear the normal noises that really bother you of the office, person chewing next to you or something like that. All these kind of distractions that are normally very apparent, they are not that apparent. They're still there, but it seems as if they're not. We're not paying attention to them. It seems as if they vanished. Right? So we're going to start to learn how to do this intentionally by meditating, right? An analogy I like to use to kind of illustrate what we're going to do. If you imagine you've come across a beautiful lake. It's a gorgeous day. There's no wind. There's no rain. And I say to you, please describe the reflection in the lake. And you're like, that's quite easy. It is a very still lake. I will describe it to you. There's a mountain. There's a grass field, whatever. And if it starts to rain a little bit, what happens to that reflection? Less clear. Really starts to rain, can't describe the reflection at all. It's there. The reflection's there. It's just obscured by the raindrops, right? So this is just like our mind. Our mind, normally very peaceful, by default, very peaceful, calm, cool, collected, thinking reasonably about our problems, right? All of the stress, anxieties, worries that are bouncing around in our mind all day long, they are like raindrops, and they're obscuring our peacefulness. Just like in the example, the raindrops are obscuring the reflection, the stillness of the lake. Our kind of anxiety, stress is blocking, obscuring our peacefulness. It's in there. It's in there. It's just obscured. So we got to go get it. Cool? Okay. So we're going to do that now, right? So step 1, plan. Step 2, relax. That's where we are right now. We're going to do a breathing meditation. Breathing meditation is a great way to relax with meditation. It's kind of an entry point meditation technique, and we're going to do it together. Okay, it's going to be about 5 minutes, very short. Common misconception about meditation: you do not need to meditate for hours on end. You have everything you need right here. You don't need perfect quiet. You don't need to go to a lake or a mountain or whatever. All you need is a little bit of effort, patience, and your breath, right? So we're going to do that now. Cool? Instructionally, very simple. Just follow along with what I'm saying. I'm going to guide us, and we're going to focus on our breath. And when you notice that your attention is no longer exclusively focused on your breath, you're going to be like, oh, and you're going to bring your attention back to breathing. That's it. Cool? Let's do it. Okay, sit comfortably. It's a good little subset, sub-step of meditation. You want to be relatively physically comfortable, right? So if you are sitting in a chair and you're comfortable, cool. If you're sitting on the floor and you're comfortable, cool. If you're laying down and you're comfortable, cool. It doesn't matter. There's no perfect setup for meditating as long as you are relatively comfortable, okay? And you can go ahead and close your eyes and just follow along with what I'm saying. We're going to do about a 5-minute breathing meditation. So let's start by making a plan. Whenever we start a meditation, it's extremely helpful to decide what we're going to do with this time. So today, for this meditation, you're going to focus exclusively on your breath. That's it. That's your plan. Make a promise to yourself. Set an intention. I am going to focus exclusively on my breath. And when I notice that I no longer am doing that, I will bring my attention back to breathing. Decide to do that. And having made a plan, we can now act on it. You can now turn your full attention to your breathing in and out of your nose. Gently, naturally. You do not need to take big, deep breaths. You do not need to forcefully exhale the air. Just breathe as you normally would, in and out. Following each moment of each breath. Following the air as it enters your nose. And following the air as it exits your nose. Breathing in, out, allowing yourself to relax a little bit into your chair or cushion. At some point, you may notice that your attention is no longer exclusively on your breath. Maybe you're thinking about something that happened earlier today. Or maybe you're thinking about something that you have to do after class. Whenever you notice that your mind has drifted, we can just gently say not right now to those thoughts and guide your attention back to breathing in and out. Back to following each moment of your breath, enjoying each moment as the air enters and exits your nose. As you begin to relax a little more into your chair or cushion. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath whenever you notice that it has drifted. This process, choosing to focus single-pointedly on your breath, noticing when your attention is no longer focused on your breath, and being able to bring your attention back to breathing, that is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind. You are training your mind to be peaceful, happy, to access its naturally relaxed state. And you're doing this all on your own, with nothing other than your breath. How wonderful. You have everything you need right now to be able to relax. So just continue to focus on breathing in and out for a little while longer. Enjoy breathing. Okay, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. How'd it go? Was still awake? So that was I think it was like 5 minutes. I don't know. I'm not timing it, but